Hi, good afternoon. My name is Gilbert Salinas, and I completed a windshield survey on the city of Harlingen, Texas. This is actually where I currently reside, and that I'm actually a lifelong resident of. Harlingen, Texas is in Cameron County, the southernmost area of Texas. The southern border of Cameron County borders Mexico, separated by only the Rio Grande River. The eastern part of Cameron County is surrounded by the Gulf of Mexico. From Harlingen, we are a 30-minute drive from Mexico and a 30-minute drive from the Gulf. Harlingen is flat. We do have a large river that runs to the south part of town called the Arroyo Colorado. To complete my windshield survey, I took a total of 2 ride-alongs. My morning ride-along was completed on April 11th, beginning at 9 a.m. and ending at 12 p.m. I completed my evening round on the evening of April 15th, starting at 5:30 and wrapping up around 8:45. During my morning round, I drove by all of our landmarks and actually didn't get a chance to observe many people out. Along the way, I passed by 3 parks. Each of the parks has a hike and bike trail, none of which were being utilized during this time. It is worth noting that the temperature when I started was 78 degrees, but steadily rose up to 88 degrees by the time I finished. So it was hot. During my day trip, we only saw one person outdoors engaging in any physical activity, and it was a Hispanic woman in her 20s, overweight. She was riding a bicycle. And then the only other area where we visualized any residents out was at the local landfill, where we saw a crew of 5 roofermen unloading a trailer. All 5 of them were most likely in their 40s. They were all Hispanic, and 4 out of the 5 men were overweight for sure. Where I did finally get a chance to observe many residents out in the community was at the local grocery store. Most of them were from the 55 and over community. Most of them were Hispanic with some whites, and most of them were overweight as well. Now, during my evening trip, significantly more activity out in the community. We drove through all of our landmarks once again, and the majority of the action was in 2 out of the 3 parks that were along the route. At the first park, we parked at the Harlingen Public Library because it's right across the street. There at the library, I witnessed several mothers, 20 to 30 years old, with small children utilizing the facilities of the public library, and all were dressed in a manner that suggested they had just gotten out of work. Right across the street at the park, the hike and bike trail, I did notice 12 joggers while I was there, ranging in ages from 20 to 40 years old, all Hispanic, and once again, most of them obese and overweight. I spent most of my time at the busiest park in my evening route. It also has a hike and bike trail that runs along the Arroyo Colorado. It's equipped with a full playground, a rent-a-bike station, and fields for local youth teams to practice. Once again, noticed mostly Hispanics, some whites. The majority were overweight. Several walkers, joggers, and bicyclists, and even the walkers, joggers, and bicyclists, several of them, the majority of them were overweight. Because of our proximity to Mexico, obviously the most common race that I ran into were Hispanics with some whites. During my ride-alongs, I didn't visualize any other ethnicities. To kind of give you a better idea of our community, I did a head count where the 2 teams were practicing. There were 31 adults, 29 were Hispanics, 2 were whites, and 27 of the 31 would be considered overweight to obese. Generally speaking, most individuals appeared healthy enough to carry on with their ADLs without any difficulties. I was seeing overweight parents engaging in activity with their children on the playgrounds. The coaches themselves were overweight, and there were several parents tending to other young children at the park, and they seemed to be able to engage in that activity without any difficulties despite being overweight. Now, I do suspect because of how heavy some of them were that there are health problems, but not to the point of debility. I didn't notice anyone using any walkers or walking aids during my ride-alongs. Everyone seemed to be well-dressed and clean, dressed appropriately for the activity that they were performing, with the exception of only one individual. That was on my way home from my morning route. At a stoplight, I did spot an individual, elderly white male, very thin. He was holding up a sign saying that he was a homeless veteran, asking for monetary donations that he can eat. This gentleman, I suspect, had some mental health problems. Even though I was suspicious of him being a mental health patient, I did not think that he was under the influence of any drugs or alcohol. And during my routes, I did not notice anyone to be under the influence of any drugs or alcohol. So one of the parks I did run into one pregnant female. She was in her mid-20s, Hispanic, and she was out at the park with another child who was practicing on one of the t-ball teams. And there were several mothers out there with strollers. Most of the moms were in their early 20s, and they were pushing a stroller and getting a walk-in on the hike and bike trail. Also along my route, we passed by mostly single-family homes. It was a mixture on the quality of the homes. We saw older homes that were well-maintained, new builds, one private gated community, and then several houses that were dilapidated and running down with overgrown grass and very messy in the front and backyards from what I was able to see. So it really was a mixture. I did pass by two housing apartment complexes. One apartment complex, the apartments were charming. They looked warm and inviting, and perhaps a place I wouldn't mind living. The landscaping was well manicured, and the playground looked like an area where I wouldn't mind my children playing. The second one, however, was run down. The grass was overgrown. Not all of the windows had screens, and each duplex had clotheslines in the back, suggesting that they are not equipped to handle a dryer. And there was no playground on that second housing complex that I passed. The majority of people around here seem to transport themselves. I didn't visualize any taxis, nor did I see anyone use the public transit, the bus services here in town. The bus stops do have a bench that can sit two people, and it does have a shaded overheading on it. And there is a transport service for Medicaid recipients that'll take them to doctor's appointments, take them home from hospitals, called the Floor Transportation. And the reason I know about this is because we utilize this service at the local hospital that I work. I also passed by several stores, restaurants, fast food chains, small businesses like dry cleaning, antique stores, and some nurseries. I didn't come across any now hiring signs. I did pass by the Workforce Solutions office, which is an office that assists the unemployed. They find short-term employment for them. And I did see various residents walking in and out of that building when I passed by. Also, my route did start out in a rural area because I live in a rural area. I'm actually surrounded by farmland. And at the moment, the local farmer is growing corn. He does have a crew that works year-round for him on the fields. I did not see any men or women gathering in the streets, nor did I visualize any school-age children out of school during normal school hours. Throughout the sign, there were some political signs. Turns out the mayor is up for re-election, so I saw some signs in support of him. And there is an opening for a school board member. Actually, there were signs for the incumbent, and there were signs supporting the challenger. I did see one billboard advertising for weight loss surgery options and for joint replacement. The weight loss surgery options did seem appropriate due to the amount of overweight people and obesity that I saw on my routes. Around the hospital, there are several doctor's offices and smaller signs advertising the clinics for several physicians. Harlingen, when I was on my route, I did pass by two daycares offering services to children of all ages. I did pass by an elementary that has pre-K for those who qualify, and for all other residents, they are allowed to start in kinder. I also passed by a middle school, and Harlingen also has two traditional high schools, along with an early college high school, offering the children a chance to gain some college credits, tuition free. And we also have a school of health professions that prepares high school students for a career in the medical field. Thank you.